Hi, folks. This is a one-take shot where I'm going to walk people through some concepts related to OER. It's going to be a lot of me reading slides. These slides will also be available, but in case you want someone to kind of walk you through the slides with some commentary, these are frequently asked questions related to open educational resources in community colleges. This one specifically, the question is, how often do I need to update my OER? What is the maintenance, version, best practices? How do I choose what format? This is really looking at that narrative of, hey, I'm building an open educational resource, whether it's a textbook, a LibreText textbook, a Canvas course, OER ancillaries. How often do I have to update this? What are my responsibilities, etc.? So, well, the short answer is there's no one size that fits all. It really is going to depend. Frequency is really going to depend specifically on your discipline. Disciplines are all over the map, as well as your content type, platform, and what modality you chose. So, how quickly your information field changes is also going to have a huge say on this. So, really, you have to think about how accurate is your OER, how usable is it, and how sustainable is it over time. So, the number one thing we think about is information cycles. A slow moving field such as history, math, things that have a lot of foundational theories and core concepts, they're pretty stable and they don't change a whole lot. So for those, something that's more static might be a good fit. If you are in a fast moving field, technology, health, law, AI, policy, these kinds of things that change every 6 months, every year, to stay current and credible requires a different approach. So I have people all the time say, well, where do I fit, Rachel? Where am I? Do you need static content? Do you need fast moving content? Core theories and frameworks are usually pretty static. So at the very least, you could build a LibreText textbook or a regular textbook on that static content. And then all of those kinds of practical foundational things you don't have to worry about. And then you can have fast moving content for things such as software, digital platforms, things that are fast moving. So really think about which one are you? Are you a stable field that could just build a textbook and be good to go? If so, maybe that's a good option for you. Are you in something where mainly a textbook, by the time it's built, it's going to be outdated? It's not going to be accurate by the time it's even published. Maybe a textbook isn't the right move for you. Maybe for you, what you need to do is patchwork a course or modules, which is basically where you're linking out to existing content. You're linking out to Supreme Court ruling decisions. You're linking out to brand new policy and procedure. And then you just have static module content in a Canvas shell that is that static content. So that would be called patchwork because you're patching in those newer information elements with the static. So this is an example of just how to think about OER in terms of two elements, right? You have your core durable principles, your theories and your frameworks. This is pretty consistent. Almost all fields of study have core principles, theories, and frameworks. Those don't change. So often that can be a textbook. It can be something that is static. And then a lot of different areas now have what we call data sets, policies, news, things that you really have to link out to in order to make it relevant. So when we're talking about how do you build OER, how do we maintain OER, think about building something where your frameworks and your principles and your theory, all of those timeless principles, those can exist in something that's static like a textbook. Personally, I recommend the LibreText textbook platform. I think that's going to be the most effective and the easiest to update as well. Often these are also referred to as universal shells or department repositories. Think about if you have new faculty coming in, they may or may not have a lot of teaching experience, having a lot of the basic framework and content ready for them, and then they can link out to whatever case studies, for instance, they want to use. That's an easy way to go about that. You also have to really think about a cost benefit analysis when it comes to your labor, okay? The traditional model of a full textbook, the initial labor to get that off the ground is really brutal. And I don't want to lie to y'all about that. You can supplement with existing OER content, but if you want to curate or build your own textbook, it takes a lot of time. But once it's built, right? The actual updating of it is not that big a deal. Whereas if instead you do module level, where you're linking out in patchwork courses at the modular level, you have more updating regularly to do, but the initial lift to get it off the ground is not as big. So really ask yourself, is building a full textbook from scratch the right move? Rarely that's the case if you're in a GE class. There's a lot of great GE content around now. There's no real reason to be building from scratch at this point. Updating a full textbook every year, is that something that you're going to have to do? Is it more acceptable and actually easier for you in your workflow to just maintain the modules, the module level? So really you have to think about how are you adapting from existing OER? Don't build from zero. That doesn't make any sense anymore. So modality is going to be a big part of this. And again, there is no one size fits all. There is no one right choice. So textbooks are stable. A textbook, a truly standalone textbook is what you'll hear the IVC OER committee say. When we say a standalone textbook, that means that it can be printed, it can be bound and printed. It can also be read on a phone. It can also be read outside of the LMS, the learning management system. That means that it is a standalone textbook in multiple modalities. LibreText textbooks are the easiest way to do this because you can download a PDF, you can read it online, you can download it as an IMSCC file into an LMS like Canvas. You can also print physical books or print the PDFs. So those are the ones that are the most stable and static while also allowing you to have that update. However, again, if you're in a class teaching about trans health, that content is so new and updating all the time. By the time that you do a book, it would require so much updating that may not make as much sense as doing a Canvas course shell or a patchwork course shell, where you have module content that some of it is static and you're linking out to the most current content. Others might say, hey, Rachel, I just want to do a reading list. It's a very lightweight, easy, 2, 3 pages max, where you have ongoing labor to modify it and update it and make sure the links work, but you're just linking out to all of the free content on the web. Maybe you're linking out to a lot of medical journals or library reading lists. So other people may just need ancillary repositories. Maybe you work with a lot of people who need worksheets and it's a lot of stuff in person. And for you, having a textbook or a Canvas shell doesn't really work. What you need is a Google Drive filled with printable worksheets, right? That would be more like an ancillary repository where you're keeping all of your content ready to go. Other people need basically modular course packs that are basically just different course packs that can be printed. So you really have to think about what modality it is because that is also going to drive how often you have to update your OER. So the other thing you have to think about is versioning basics. When you are creating content and putting it out there for the world to use, you put some generic title on it like Math 1 without realizing that when you update that content, other people aren't going to know that it's updated. So this is why we strongly recommend having a file naming convention of some sort that is consistent. So for instance, it could say IVC, OER, Math 1, put the author's name, date last created, and then put version 1, version 2, version 3, or edition 1, edition 2, edition 3. Having that is very, very effective to make sure that whoever else is using your content knows. It'll also be helpful for you as the creator to remember which version you're working off of. So recommended review cycles. So if you have a stable OER, curriculum usually recommends 5 to 7 years unless it's a historical text. Really think about how you are aligning your reviews with formal curriculum, whatever your curriculum says at your institution, within your departments. Core concepts and again, foundational theories, they tend to be more static, and therefore 5 to 7 years is pretty reasonable, right? However, every 2 to 3 years for things that have faster evolving fields, and then every semester or every year for things like technology, health, law, AI, current events, policy-driven content, politics. Those might really need to be reviewed every year. So building a static textbook might not be the right fit for you. So these are all guidelines. There is no one size fits all. Again, this is something that I hear regularly. People be like, I just have to meet the course outline of record. Think of curriculum as the floor, not the ceiling. One of the most beautiful things about OER is that it is iterative, it is creative, it is a kind of ownership over the content that really allows faculty to exercise their academic freedom in a way that you can't with commercial textbooks. So content updates really are about making sure the content is relevant to your students. And with OER, you can connect it really, really quickly that way. Faculty updates, fast-moving content may need more faculty or factual connections regularly. And think about it as proactive stewardship. We're not waiting until things are broken, we're doing active review. As content experts, that's something that you can do even better than the commercial textbook industries can do because you know your industry better than the commercial textbook industries do. Think about how many times you've seen a commercial textbook that has everything in the kitchen sink thrown in. That's because they're trying to cater to such a wide audience. They aren't building targeted, curated content anymore. They're building everything in the kitchen sink. So you get to think about what makes that targeted curriculum. The best OER is maintainable OER. So for a lot of people, I do recommend having at least foundational text in LibreText or in a standalone textbook. But for some things, having modular patchwork courses that link out with the static framework just in the modules is also an excellent fit. If you teach mainly in person and you need handouts and worksheets, maybe what you actually need is to have all of your content in a Google Drive under Creative Commons license. And we also share it in some mini repositories online for others to be able to share and use. So really think about matching your format to your field velocity, your information cycle fields in your area of expertise. Think about version and document history. And then again, just review. And thank you for being willing to do this work.